Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley is backtracking after coming under intense criticism for comments about the U.S. Civil War. Yes, the U.S. Civil War. Haley, who's the former governor of South Carolina, keep in mind, was asked about what caused the war, and this was at a town hall in New Hampshire on Wednesday. Her answer crucially failed to mention slavery. Take a listen.
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do.
2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you've answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
Next question. Okay, to give you some context here, South Carolina was the first state to leave the U.S. after then President Abraham Lincoln's election, with its declaration explicitly stating the North's hostility to slavery. Speaking earlier, Haley said that aspect of history should go without saying. Listen.
Of course the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's unquestioned. Always the case. We know the Civil War was about slavery. But it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual. It was about the role of government.
To get more on why Haley's words, or lack thereof, matter so much, James Grossman is the executive director of the American Historical Association and joins us now from Washington. And yes, let's get started with that history lesson, because apparently even Nikki Haley needs it. Why is the fact that omitting slavery, why is that so contentious?
Well, it's contentious because for over a century after the Civil War, white people in the southern states basically learned in school, at home, and everywhere that they had fought the Civil War over the honor of the region, over the maintenance of their heritage, and that it wasn't about slavery at all, or that slavery was a minor issue. It was referred to as the war between the states. After Reconstruction, they referred to that as redemption, the redemption of their states from these horrible black people, supposedly, who had been running their states. Of course it was about slavery, but that had been denied for over a century. And Haley was suggesting she hadn't learned anything since then. I also think it's very important to hear part of the quote that you didn't play. Haley said, "I think it comes down to the role of government and what the rights of the people are." And if you look at the Declaration of Secession from her own state, South Carolina, they refer to as why they have to secede the encroachments upon the reserved rights of the states, and that 14 of the states have deliberately refused to fulfill their constitutional obligations. Both of those things refer to slavery. They refer to the right of some people to own other people, and they refer to the obligations of northern states to return fugitive slaves.
And it is absolutely an important distinction, especially when you speak to black communities in the South today. And that is the political lesson of this. Obviously, it shapes politics. Some have suggested that she, though, deliberately avoided bringing up slavery. I mean, I'm not asking you to weigh in politically, but historically, if she's making that omission, what does it mean?
It means either that, I hate to say this, she's a candidate for president of the United States. She's a very intelligent woman. It means either she is ignorant of history, it means she doesn't know, or she is deliberately obfuscating in order to not offend white Southerners who still don't want to believe that the Civil War was a war fought, that 700,000 Americans died so that people could defend the right of some people to own, buy, and sell other people.
And there it is right there in a nutshell. And I'm glad that you put it in such a blunt way, because that's what many are saying today. She was the former governor of South Carolina. She is responsible for taking down the Confederate flag, that very offensive symbol to so many, from the state capitol after that horrific mass murder. Is it acceptable, do you think, though, still in the South today, when you're dealing with primary voters, perhaps, to equivocate on history? And I know you've written about this, not just in this context, but in others as well. It's part of the culture war, right?
I hate to say that it's part of the culture war, but it does seem to be. And that has to do with what we think of as our heritage, our history, the refusal. And you could see this on January 6th, 2021, the refusal of some Americans to recognize a very simple truth, which was that to take up arms for the Confederacy or to serve in the Confederate legislatures was an act of treason. And it was an act of treason to defend the right, I'll go back to it, the right of some people, the supposed right of some people to buy and sell and own other human beings. And we have to recognize how much that was built into the first 250 years of what became the United States. And that's a long time that this was part of our system.
And it still bears repeating, obviously, especially in the southern United States today. We will continue to follow this politically, but James Grossman, I really thank you for the history lesson today, because I think we could all use it. Really appreciate it.